Russell here at Montana Lane Outdoors. So starting to put together some recaps of my 2019 Pennsylvania whitetail season. And this year it was one of the most productive seasons I've had in terms of video footage and having the opportunity to film. In this segment, I'm going to talk a little bit about decoying. I tried something new this year. I had never done this quite before. And just the setup that I had, the field edge that I was on, I thought it was perfect for. So in early November, I started to see some bucks on the move, and I decided that I was going to give it a shot. I was going to take my archery target, put one antler on it, put it on the edge of that field, and see what it would do for me. And I'll be honest, I didn't have high expectations, but over the next week, I captured some of the coolest footage I've ever gotten. And I'm pretty convinced it was due to that decoy being out there and just attempting to do that and try something a little bit different this year. So take you through some of those scenes and talk through at the end some of the things I learned. But we'll take a look here. Kick the season off on November 1st. I had somewhere to be that day, and I looked out in the morning and I saw not one but two of my target bucks in the backyard. There's a big wide 9-point that I had some trail cam pictures of and some footage the year before making his way across the yard. And then a buck that I've been chasing for a couple years now that I named Bob Marley was out there. So I decided that evening when I got home, had a couple hours to sit, I was going to go out and give it a try and see how it went. So we'll set up the first evening's hunt. I'll let that play through and come back, and we'll talk about it a little bit when it's over. What you saw from the footage there, that 7-point come out, he was all puffed up, his ears tucked back. He was coming in a decoy, and I thought for sure he was going to blow him up. He got down below him, and just as he got to him, he saw there was a doe, and actually several doe, and another buck out in the field. And he decided to go check them out and see what was going on. Eventually, those 7 doe and another buck, and this one made their way back. You'll see here some footage of the doe. One of the doe, she worked her way down around. She was a little skeptical of the decoy. She worked her way around, checked it out, and then they all eventually fed off and worked their way out of the field. So that wrapped up the evening hunt. So here we are. It's the morning of November 2nd. It's a really cold, crisp morning, and I decided I was going to give a little bit of a grunt and then rattle lightly at first light just to see what was going on this morning. And I grunted, turned around to grab the antlers off the tree, and just as I turned around, an old friend of mine was standing there, Bob Marley. He'd heard the grunt, he'd come out and saw the decoy, but he also saw me moving in the tree. And honestly, I'm convinced that the Huntworth disruption pattern that I had on that morning allowed him to remain calm with that decoy in the field, with that buck standing there. It eased him. I captured over 5.5 minutes of video of this buck as he tried to figure out what was going on. Worked his way down the hill, came back around, and I'll show you some of the footage of him coming into the decoy eventually. In another segment, I'll actually capture my entire hunt for Bob Marley and show you all the footage I captured over the year of him. But in this particular one, like I said, he comes out, spends about 5.5 minutes circling this decoy before he finally comes in and works his way into the decoy. So it was a pretty exciting morning, and this decoy's been working out much better than I thought. So we're going to keep at it and see how it goes. Now we're on to Saturday, November 8th. It's a really cold morning. It's low 20s. There's snow on the ground. I got the decoy back out again. I put the buck decoy back out. And you'll see at first light, I've got this really big bodied buck comes out of the corner, hits a scent wick that I had put out. And you'll see in the footage here, he only has a half a rack. He busted off his left side. He's a big, looks like a big 3 or 4 point on the right side. He's got another spike coming out right out of the base, a couple inches long. But he comes out and immediately he hits my scent trail and he snaps his head up. And that decoy, the way I had it set that morning in the dark, I didn't quite have the angle right. And that buck was facing up the hill looking, the decoy was looking straight at me in the tree. And I'm convinced that buck coming out saw him, was going to come into him. When he noticed him looking up the hill, or the way I had it situated, it was basically aimed right at the tree. So he snaps his head up, looks at me, puts his head back down into the scent that's there. I think he picked up my trail coming in, knew something wasn't right, so he turned around and worked his way back out. But yet another encounter with the decoy out there. So here we are. It's Saturday, November 8th. It's an evening now. I've had a lot of success so far in decoying, so I thought I'm going to go out and give it another shot here. And I put the buck back out there in the field, and it didn't take too long. Had another buck coming across from the bottom who picked up that decoy. Turns out to be this 7-point that I've been seeing quite a bit throughout the season. He's a young deer. He's got some time he needs to grow. But he come in, he works his way in the bottom of this decoy, and he's circling up around. And you'll see in the footage here, I actually captured another visitor to my decoy. Throughout the fall, I've been getting a couple of gray foxes pretty consistently on my trail cameras. And as I'm capturing this 7-point working his way into the decoy, I caught movement down below, and here comes this gray fox up out of the brush, deciding to stalk the decoy as well. So you'll see how that buck picks him up and eventually chases him off. But play this out, and then I'll come back and we'll wrap up this segment on what I did with decoying and give you some tips and tricks of what I found throughout the season. So as you can see, I had a lot of success with the decoying this fall in Pennsylvania. Definitely something that I would give a try again to next fall. Figured out a few things along the way, just placement and watching how these deer interacted and approached. I definitely would change up the positioning, a little bit of the ears if I'm going to use it as a doe decoy. I did have it out one time. I didn't get any footage of that, but I had a buck come out, and the way the doe was situated, I felt like she was more on alert than, you know, calm and at ease. So it seemed to alarm him. He come out, stepped into the corner, looked down there, turned right around, went back in. Another situation, as I mentioned, that early morning with that half rack, I had that buck just turned and really looking up the hill at me, and I'm convinced that's why he picked me off that morning. He looked down, saw that buck looking up, and just the way he looked like he was looking right up in the tree at me. So, you know, some things to remember with the decoying. If you are using it as a doe, typically the bucks are going to approach them from behind, so you want to have them situated so that the decoy is facing away from you, so that you can have that buck approaching and give you a quartering away shot into that doe decoy. As far as the if you're going to use it as a buck decoy, typically they're going to go out and challenge that deer head on, so you want to face it again so you get that quartering away or broadside shot. Have it, you know, angled more towards your stand or facing more forward of where you think that buck's going to come from. So all in all, it definitely added a new flavor to my hunting, allowed me to capture some really cool footage, and hopefully this is something that you guys can take back and give it a try next year. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to check out you know, the YouTube channel. There'll be more videos coming here pretty soon. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and look forward to providing some new content to you.